Hi, in this video, I'm going to talk about why the middle class is disappearing and why the tax the rich narrative might not be as helpful as people may have you believe. First, let's start with what this video has and what this video is. Now, what this is not a get rich quick scheme, it's not investment advice, it's none of those things. It is simply a general YouTube video based on the way I see the world, right? So the key points of words over here are simple. I'm not going to use a lot of big economic theories and a lot of economic graphs. There will be some, but it won't be the main focus of the video. Second, when I say general, I mean it is largely true as of 2022, and some of this data is not day to day, month to month, or even year to year, but it is more generational and it needs to be seen over decades. Third, in terms of the my hypothesis part, it is basically my way of saying that this is not academic writing. This is just me and my opinion on the worldview. I hope that sets enough of a context. Second thing, part of the story is that this entire 1% narrative and tax the rich narrative, it is tempting because it has a kernel of truth. And I believe that every good lie has to have that kernel of truth. So I will be first acknowledging in this slide and right now the melancholy which is felt by the people in America with respect to the Wall Street protests, as well as the rise of people who are against the rich and the entire isms which have arisen within America. Awesome. Let's now look deeper into the graph and what it signifies. This graph over here shows in this dark green thing the rise of income of the different classes, the upper class, middle class, and lower class from the 1970s to 2020s. And what we see over here is how the main story over here is how the share of income of upper class has gone from around 29-30% in 1970s to about 50% in 2020, and how the share of middle class has declined from 62% to 42%, showing a clear decline. Now, this graph is well and good, but let's actually understand what's happening here. What's actually happening, right? Over here, I actually break down what does wealth mean to the middle class and the upper class, and this is very important if you need to understand what is actually going on here. So I'm going to spend some time in middle class. The most important asset which most people will own in their lives are their primary residences, are the homes where you live, followed by things like your pension accounts, your retirement funds, as well as things like your bank account, maybe some cash, maybe some stocks. But the primary thing, 62% of most Americans' wealth is captured through their home. Again, these figures will be different for each and every one, but this is simply a representation I found online. Next, for the income, for the upper class, right? you will have a you will see that the rise, you will see as we get into the richer people, the share of wealth held in your primary residence decreases and your investment income increases for the upper class initially, which hold greater amount of wealth through their investments, through their businesses, etc. And finally, for the ultra rich category, almost all the people you see in this category have most of their wealth which comes from either stocks, securities, and equities, or they come from things like the businesses they own, the real estate, the IP, etc., etc. And a fraction of their wealth is stored within the homes. Does that mean that they have a smaller apartment? No, it just means that with respect to their total net worth, the value of their home is comparatively much lesser. Now that we have established this, how what the wealth is actually happening, what does it mean for everyday Americans? So first, let's understand the difference between, let's say, the earlier 70s, 60s, the entire 20th century, and now. We have gone from having the Apollo missions, which was the, I think, one of the most important and coolest achievements of the last century, to creating an iPhone. Why I'm comparing the two is because it's a really interesting fact that an iPhone in front of you, the screen on which you're probably watching this video, has more computation powers than the entire Apollo 11 mission program, from the computers they were using to the rockets they had. And they, even if I might be wrong specifically, and maybe they are a bit stronger, but they're comparable. Think about that. Let that sink in. One iPhone versus that entire mission apparatus. And that is a crazy, crazy thing. That is the level of development we've had. That is the increase in standard of living we have experienced. And I just want all of us to appreciate that, both in terms of electronics, where in comparing Apollo and iPhones, as well as a similar thing has happened in fashion, where we went from initially the artisanal styles of India and China to the evil Manchester looms of the industrialized UK, to then manufacturing happening in the US, to Latin America, to Bangladesh. And there is a very interesting saying in the fashion industry or the clothes manufacturing industry, that it is an industry which seeks poverty. Anyways, before I jump into any more of wealth, I think I have to take a step back and help you understand the global perspective on wealth. And to understand the global perspective of wealth and standard of living, I have to introduce you to this amazing idea of income levels for the world. This is Earth today. This is the human civilization, and I need to help you understand that. So, I'm not going to be using per capita GDP, even though it's an amazing and interesting figure to look at. I'm going to be instead using this framework which I came across in Hans Rosling's book Factfulness. And here is how it is. Let's look at transportation. In transportation, you can understand that level one is a person who can walk somewhere. Level 2 is basically you have a bicycle. Level 3 is you have a motorized version of a bicycle, which could be a bike, a scooty, motorbike, etc. And lastly, you have your own personal car. Of course, there are intermediaries like public transportation, but those are only for the really advanced and well developed economies. But these are, in general, how the four level go. There are similar examples with respect to water, transportation, cooking, where you live, etc. etc. And below that, what I have tried to show is how many people live on each level today. How many people are in level 1, how many people are in level 2, level 3, and level 4. Most of the people you will interact with are people who are well to do, who are educated, who live in first world countries, which are on level 4. And but whereas majority of the world is in developing countries right now in level 2 and level 3, etc. And this is what I want to communicate to you, that most of the world is living right now in a different place, and this is the rise in this is the other 99%. This globally is the 99%, which is moving from level 1 to level 2, from level 2 to level 3. And that is the transition I want to talk to you about. And this is essentially the hypothesis I would like to present, which is the rise of the true 99%. Going back to the earlier thing of fast fashion and smartphones. Apple manufactures a lot of its manufacturing and happens within China, within this town of Shenzhen. Shenzhen has gone from this grubby little fishing village to a great mega future city which looks like this over here. with a skyline as comparable to New York, at least based on the YouTube videos I found. Now, similarly, when it let's look at Bangladesh. Bangladesh, as you can see over here, has recovered from a genocide, from the genocide, civil wars, and it's found its independence in '71, and has transformed and is a case study in women empowerment as well as becoming a middle income country, even overtaking India in its per capita GDP numbers. And this is the globalization story which I want to comment with, that the standard of living which is created in which is done by the West through these products like iPhone and clothes, etc., have led to development of rest of the world. And if I have to summarize and if I have to show you the full picture, this is the full picture. The 1% of the wealthy people are wealthy because they own American stocks. These are basically companies you've heard of, like Apple, etc., which are American by virtue of being listed on the American Stock Exchange. And these American stocks, because you think they are American, you don't realize that they're actually global companies with a global supply chain where components and products from contractors to subcontractors to subcontractors coming from across the world. And hence, what is happening is there's been this dispersion of wealth, and there is due to support the Western developing consumerism. And that is the story which is happening here. Again, I'm not commenting on whether it's good or bad. I'm just hoping to communicate to you about why I think, personally speaking, the middle class seems to be shrinking. It is because what they have invested in or what they can invest in is basically their residences, whereas what is happening in the world, the value which is being created is creating outside the American borders in the through manufacturing and through these real jobs which have just been happening elsewhere, and that has made the other people richer. So when you hear the words the middle class is shrinking, it's not true, because the global middle class, the human civilization as a whole, is getting richer and is becoming a lot better. Thank you. This is, by the way, if you would love to hear your thoughts, if you agree with me, great, leave a like. If you disagree with me, amazing. Leave a comment. We can chat. And hopefully, I hope this video helps you guys out. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.